All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics and Money. Excited to be with you as always. How you doing, Elizabeth?
I'm doing great. And today's topic is very interesting. Very, very,
Indeed.
very interesting.
Indeed. Well, what we're going to be talking about, as a matter of fact, before I'll start this, do you know that we talked about something coming up like this about a year and a half ago when we talked
hmm
about BRICS and the possibility of pushing towards de-dollarization in a way that we're going to be shocked and surprised. And here we are, because now
Absolutely.
you look at BRICS members, we're going to detail one particular country and to why is now pursuing significant currency swaps with China, yuan. That is what's going on. So what you're looking at now the currency swap. You're looking at the de-dollarization, of course. You're looking at economic recovery for some other countries. You're looking at international finance, trading emerging economies, and of course, all this leads us to we're going to be asking the key fundamental question is what's going to be happening to the global financial system.
Absolutely. What you're talking about, there are a couple of really key parts of what you just said. The first is it's not just about this country because as we talk about it a little bit more,
Yeah,
the sum isn't that much in compared to the global scale, right? But
yeah.
it's why it's happening at all. Because there are two reasons it's happening. First is that Chinese yuan denominated debt is actually more attractive than dollar denominated debt right now. And that's for
Hmm.
a couple of reasons. So, China is trying to internationalize the yuan. We talked for a long time, and
We
I've
did.
actually disagreed with this the entire time. But
Yeah.
and now I am absolutely seeing
Why?
evidence for my
Yeah.
position that
Yeah.
China is internationalizing the yuan. Now, granted, it's still 5% of,
And we're
of
gonna talk
of
about the
held
yeah,
assets, right? So
yeah,
it's nowhere near the 50% the US dollar is, but with
yeah,
intention over time, I really believe that is going to change.
yeah,
So we in this show we're going to talk about China actually internationalizing
yeah,
the renminbi,
yeah.
yuan,
The yuan. Yeah,
internationalizing their own currency and what that actually means for other countries because part of internationalization is that they want other countries to hold their currency. Well, the
yeah.
best way to get another country to hold your currency is twofold. It's through trade
Hmm.
and it's through loans. And we're
Yeah,
seeing China do both in very interesting ways, in ways that the US is not competitive.
yeah. Well, that's one of the things that the key to all this is the to me. That's why it was a major sort of move by the Chinese. And once again, the idea is to understand how this shift is going to now reflect some sort of a growing financial transactions with some other countries
Mhm.
beside just the BRICS members, because this, in my opinion, which confirm what we've been talking about for almost a year and a half
Yep.
as far as the broader de-dollarization trends. And at that time, I remember I used to read comments and say, oh, you guys, you don't know what you guys are talking about. And I was like, okay, we don't
Mhm.
know what we're talking about, but at least we're gonna keep an eye open as far as the trend where this is headed. And
Yeah.
this is exactly why it's gonna be, in my opinion, now you're looking at the emerging market economies are gonna now almost confirming, in my opinion, and again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's gonna be confirming that it is now or never for us to seek alternative or pathways to economic sort of dealings with the Chinese away from the dollar, because they wanted to reduce the dependency on the US dollar based financial system.
Well, okay, so let's dive into that. Let's dive into exactly what you're
Yeah.
talking about, David. Let's dive into Ethiopia because
It,
Ethiopia
yeah.
is the country that's doing this. So what let's first look at what they're doing. So I want to share on screen
Hmm.
exactly what we're talking about. Because this is not the first African country this month to
I
have
know.
done this. Kenya did it earlier, within a month of Ethiopia attempting to do this. Let me share the screen. Bam. Okay. Bam. Okay. So, that's not even our background. Okay. Whatever. So this is everybody's talking about this all over the place, but Ethiopia is trying to turn the debt that it has with China, which is about 5.38 billion, into yuan. Okay. So that's what we're talking about here. Kenya did a version of this earlier, a couple weeks ago, and they did it very successfully.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why they would want to do this.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me show a picture quickly, if I could.
Yes, let me
this one
take
has
this
to,
off.
Yeah, this one has to do with Kenya. You mentioned Kenya, which, by the
Mhm.
way, that was the Ethiopia's move, followed what you just said about Kenya, because Kenya made the arrangements earlier this month. Nairobi completed the conversion of 3 China financed railway loans from the US dollar to the yuan. So, and this is sort of, according to Kenyan's authorities, the reason why they did that, because it will cut into the interest rate cost for about $215 million a year.
Yes.
And there is a third country follow them. You know which one was it? It's Nigeria. Also renewed a 15 billion yuan, which is the equivalency of $2 billion currency swap with People's Bank of China as of December.
Well, so let's talk about why these countries are doing this.
Yes.
Because that's the big question, and that's what's
Indeed.
important for people in the United States, Americans, and everywhere else.
Yeah.
Because as you guys know, many currencies are tied to the US dollar through the IMF and World Bank. Loans have been made pretty much globally to other countries, and if
You're right.
yeah, some countries who shall not be named, but you guys know who they are, right? Have had loans with the IMF and World Bank that are decades old, and they're still paying them off. They had absolutely no business getting those loans. What is
I
it?
have 2 on the top of my head.
Yes.
You want to know?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Argentina and Pakistan. On the top of my head. And they're still sinking into debt. That's exactly what is happening with those.
And if you guys want to know more about that, there's a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Oh, yeah,
it is
that's a good book.
fantastic.
That is a good book. So.
I think it's like technically fiction or something, but I'll let you like put 2 and 2 together. But anyway, the point is, a lot of countries have loans that are denominated in dollars. But there are a couple of problems, and this is very well highlighted by Ethiopia, because most countries, even if they have US denominated loans, they don't have the trade with the United States to get a hold of those dollars. So no matter what, even if they wanted to pay back in dollars, it's very, very hard for them to get it. And Ethiopia is in that position right now. Ethiopia does the bulk of its trade with China. And since it does the bulk of its trade with China, it has yuan.
It makes more sense.
Right?
And as a matter of fact, you're absolutely correct, because that's when the negotiations between China and Ethiopia started regarding the conversion of about, to my knowledge, was about almost 6 billion US dollars.
Yeah.
Which was that almost 6. It's 5.14, something like that.
5.38, I think.
That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the debt. That is the debt. Now they're trying to convert that one to the Chinese yuan. Why? It's because for the Ethiopians, they wanted to deepen their trade ties with them. As a matter of fact, I got a picture of the director of the Central Bank of Ethiopia. His name is Eyob Tekalin. He's the governor of the National Bank of Ethiopia. And here is what he said, and I quote, "China is a very important partner for us now. It really makes sense to arrange some currency swap. We've requested officially and then working on it." End of quote. I can only imagine now why the United States is pushing its policy towards Africa. And I remember on the other channel,
Right.
I did a video from a geopolitical aspect, but it is tied to the finances aspect of it.
Well, everything is financial,
That's true.
and the core of
Yeah.
all geopolitics is financial.
Mhm.
So, looking at exactly what that gentleman said,
Yeah.
so that is the first reason. The first reason is the massive amount of trade that Ethiopia and most of Africa, quite frankly, is doing with China.
Yeah.
That is the big issue with the United States not having any manufacturing. And that's why
Yeah.
the Trump administration unsuccessfully at this moment, unsuccessfully, who knows whether it would be successful in the future or not, but that's why it's not that's why that's where they're going for, because China is the world's manufacturer. And they did a very, very smart thing by becoming the world's manufacturer, because their goods are now across the world. Most of the world buys things from China. They
Yeah.
don't buy anything from the United States. What does the United States have that Ethiopia needs? What does the United States make that
Yeah.
Ethiopia can even afford to buy?
Goodbye.
You know, the average Ethiopian is not going to buy an iPhone, which are not manufactured here in the United States anyway. But they're not going to buy, let's say, I don't even know what's manufactured here anymore, but let's say they're going to buy a Chevy, right? Which, you know, parts are made all over the place, but whatever. Let's say they're going to buy a Chevy. The average Ethiopian, so the average price, actually, David, this is going to blow your mind, but the average price for a new vehicle here in the United States, what do you think it is?
Probably 36,000.
$50,000.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
$50,000
That's
is
crazy.
the average price for a new vehicle here in the States. Okay.
Yeah.
An Ethiopian is not going to pay
No,
$50,000 for a car.
no.
It's just not going to happen. So since that's the case,
Yeah.
China has done a very, very smart thing by keeping its products competitively priced. And they did that by keeping the yuan artificially low. Okay. So now we're looking at Ethiopia can buy a lot of things from China. So they have their trade. The other section of this is the interest rates.
Yeah.
So we know that the Fed has been, President Trump has been going back and forth with the Fed about lowering interest rates. And this is a reason why. Okay. Now everybody's talking about, sorry guys, this is like a huge tangent, but it's really, really important.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about the interest rate here, right? And if the interest rate is lowered, inflation goes higher and the whole shebang, right? But bank lending is not why we have high interest here or high inflation here in this country.
Yeah.
It's not why we have it. Money printing is why we have it. Money printing and then handing that money to consumers is why we have high inflation. It's not bank lending. Okay. But we have here, so let's say the average US loan is somewhere, I think they had it at like 7.7%. Okay. If they were to change that to yuan, that's now 3%. And that's a massive difference in interest. So let's say so they have like 5.3 billion in loans, but just for simple math, I want to show it like this. You have $1 billion US, okay, in loan, in debt. You convert that to, I think it's like 7.2 billion yuan. Now, if it were the annual interest cost on that $1 billion in US dollars is 72.5 million. That same debt in yuan is only 30 million in US dollar equivalent. That is a savings of over $40 million a year per $1 billion of loan that they're able to basically restructure, turn into yuan.
Yeah.
That's a big savings to a small country like Ethiopia. And if you make that a bigger, what I'm saying is, I understand why President Trump is harping so hard on changing the interest rates. Yeah. Because right now, even globally, they're just fundamentally not competitive. When the yuan can, when Ethiopia can have a 3% interest rate versus the United States dollar, which I don't remember exactly what it's at, but let's say it's 7% or 5% even.
Yeah.
We're talking about millions and millions and
Yeah.
billions of dollars in savings.
That's
Okay,
true.
sorry. That's
Yeah, I did, and I'm gonna share it with the community. Guys, check out the chat box. I put a link for an article I put on LinkedIn.
yes,
I'm
check out
starting
David's
to write.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm starting to write articles for on LinkedIn. So mainly pertain to economics and finance. So, and one of them I addressed regarding what you mentioned, Elizabeth, about the car costing 50,000, where the health of the financial system here in America
Right.
and the administration and the media are holding are preventing the truth from coming out, so
Yeah.
the American people know exactly where things are going. So that was the reason why I wrote that article. You guys check it out later on. So now, based on what you stated, Elizabeth, is going to lead us now to ask one of the fundamental questions. And again, as an analyst, I have to think far ahead. And the
Mhm.
question is, why is renminbi is suddenly coming to the forefront?
That is the
Because
question. That is
yeah,
the
because
question.
let's face it. Did we even think about this just 6 months ago?
I mean,
No.
I did, but
Well, we didn't put
I
it
did
forward.
personally.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Well, you know what I'm referring to
Yes,
the
I do.
global level.
Global
So
wi yeah,
yeah,
globally.
and we're gonna have to ask the question, and with this, because now what you're looking at, what Ethiopia is doing, what now Russia and India are doing. Do you
Yeah.
know that Russia now is telling India, we will accept payments in the renminbi.
Mhm.
So India will be paying for oil that is getting or has been getting from Russia.
Yeah.
Moving forward, from now forward, is going to be receiving the payments in a renminbi. The United Arab Emirates and India also are trading in this currency, and this is why it leads us to think in terms of the growth of the internationalization of the renminbi.
Right.
Is it to the point of replacing the dollar? Not necessarily.
No.
However, because the dollar, because the renminbi is going to need some sort of significant, some sort of structural foundations for it to do so. Even
Right.
though I always believe that the renminbi or the Chinese are not after the same role of the dollar. Suffice
Well,
it to say, if I
yeah.
may, just this point, suffice
Yes.
it to say that what the renminbi now is showing is that the current strength of the Chinese yuan.
So I the Chinese are intelligent and
Yeah,
they see what has happened with the United States reserve as a reserve currency.
of course.
And it's not just the US, the British pound and the Dutch. I think it was the Gelder before it. So
Yeah.
this is one of the cycles. And this is just to my understanding, guys. I am, I'm a girl in the world, right? But my to my understanding
Hmm.
is it is impossible or very challenging to have a reserve currency
Hmm.
that is also competitive globally. So, what I mean by that is having your goods be competitive globally, because the problem is still the same. So
Hmm.
everybody wants dollars. You have a reserve currency. It is the most dependable currency on the planet. Still, even though it's on its, it's
Hmm.
clearly on a downward trend. Okay, to be clear, it's on a
Yeah.
downward trend, but it's still 50% of reserve currency is held in US dollars,
No.
compared to, I think it's 5% for
Hmm.
renminbi. Okay, so it's still a very massive difference, but it is switching. And we
Yeah.
are watching China internationalize. Now, how are they doing it? They're internationalizing through the Belt and Road Initiative. They're
Hmm.
internationalizing through the BRI. They're creating infrastructure to
Hmm.
allow their goods to travel to whatever part of the world that particular infrastructure is in. Okay. So they own both. They own two sections of that. They own the infrastructure required to receive it
Hmm.
and transport it, and they own the goods themselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant, because what they're doing, and this is not a judgment of like US bad, China good. I say this every time and I really mean it. This is
Yeah.
about intelligent planning. This is about figuring out what's working so that everyone can do it. I don't
Yeah.
just think China should be doing this. I think the United States should really get its shit together and start building infrastructure. I think that would help the
Yeah.
American people. I think that would help the United States become more competitive globally. Like, build some freaking infrastructure.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
they won't. They won't. The US won't do it. So, however,
Well,
let's one of the ideas as far as because it's been coming up a lot in conversations.
mhm.
Well, which currency is going to replace the dollar? So there are major barriers. There are limitations into
Huge. Yeah.
really replacing the dollar. It's not going to happen overnight because why? The dollar, the US dollar, still some sort of benefit from sort of
Right.
it's because it is entrenched in most of the global economy.
Yeah.
So the liquid financial markets, it's the dollar reigns supreme. The strength of some U.S. institutions in dealing with this, because this came through decades after World War II, since the establishment of the Bretton Woods. That was the whole idea. So it's not going to be replaced overnight. So
Mm-mm.
there is also the other challenges for the yuan, in my opinion, and those could be limited to some key. That doesn't mean the Chinese cannot overcome that. It's just going to take time. It's like exactly how they did with their economy for the last 30 years.
Mhm.
Because let's face it, whoever thought that China within 30 plus years is going to be where it is today? In
I mean,
Washington, they
you
wanted,
did.
yeah, well, I did. Yeah,
You
but I
did.
was like, I was labeled like, no, 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 no.
I
You don't know
know.
what you're talking about.
But I want to be clear, you did know.
Well, it's because I
I was
saw it.
barely live then, but you did know.
Yeah, but I did see it coming.
Yeah.
So I see the same coming regarding the financial within time, you know. And one of the things that the China is going to have to deal with, face, is that, or not face, but rather understand, which I am sure they
Mhm.
do, is that the yuan faces some sort of a capital control
Yes.
that limits. This is where the challenge, the limitation of the convertibility. This is where it's going to take time. It's going to become easier for that convertibility and the free movements on the global market. That's the only challenge as of today. They
Yeah.
will overcome this one because you're going to have to think about the interest rate, the exchange rate, and also the phone holders always going to be holding the yuan in different markets.
Yes. So you're talking about the catch 22.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
talking about the catch 22 that a strong currency has
Indeed.
versus what I was talking about earlier with
Yeah.
global like manufacturing and shipping things globally
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
having them be affordable globally, right? If
Yeah.
you have a really, really strong currency versus other currencies, people can't afford your stuff. And China has
Yeah.
built its entire, more or less, empire because it is an empire, flat out.
Yeah.
They have a manufacturing empire, and they built it over decades, and the United States funded it. Okay, America funded that, but they have built their empire on being able to produce goods cheaply. Now,
Yeah.
that it's the same, that's what I was talking about earlier, is if they do seek, because I don't
Mhm.
know whether, what I'm observing is that they are internationalizing the yuan. Okay,
Mhm.
that's obvious that they're doing that. Okay, and they're doing it through, like I said, loans, and they're doing it through the BRI. But what I don't know is whether they are seeking a stronger currency, because that's the catch 22. Do you have a strong currency that the rest of the world wants and
Yeah.
thinks is safe and wants and all of that? Or do you keep your currency devalued so that everyone else can buy things from
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer to that is, but that is what the United States has faced. That's why
Yeah.
the US, that's why companies gutted the middle
Yeah.
class here. That's why the United States doesn't have manufacturing anymore, is because people couldn't buy the things that that the US is making.
Well, the cost of it. So here is how I see it playing out moving forward. And again, this is just thinking outside the box. You know, and I'm not, just for the record. Let me disclose this. I am not a financial
Yeah,
advisor,
we are
or
not
I'm not.
financial advisors.
Not in my area. I can talk to you geopolitics. I can talk to you global affairs, international relations, but finance. However, I do have an understanding of how these changes in the financial structure on the global stage impact the trajectory of the geopolitical landscape. And one of the things that I see over the horizon moving forward, the likely scenario is that it's going to be a gradual move on part of the
It
Chinese.
already is.
Yeah. And towards what? Towards the multi-currency. It ain't going to be just the yuan by itself. Because what the Chinese going to be thinking strategically, and I bet you the last meeting they just had for the closed session meeting, I don't know if you were aware of it, Elizabeth. It was the fourth plenum. That's for the leadership of the political party in China. They held a meeting. It's closed. No media, no. And usually that's for the 5-year plan. And if I am to think outside the box and guess, this will be one of the issues that they address. And this is where the Chinese is going to think in terms of the strategy is to allow the yuan play some sort of a larger role alongside the other currencies, the likes of the euro, the dollar, and some other major currencies. And this is where you're going to see in this scenario, in my opinion, you're going to be seeing that this de-dollarization, which has been happening for the last year and a half to 2 years, is going to be happening within the pockets of the BRICS, mainly first. And that is going to, that's why you're seeing Russia now and India decided to move into, because India was paying with the rupees. Who the heck is going to accept the rupees for? United Arab Emirates doing the same when it sends liquefied natural gas and oil and so forth to India. This is why you're going to see it within BRICS. And this is where China will have to some sort of really, in its grand strategy, make some sort of very, very calculated moves regarding the capital markets if they wanted to keep their currency moving forward, because they're going to have to make it easy for convertibility. And that is, again, where it's going to pave the way for other countries, like what we're seeing right now in Africa. Some of them are restructuring the debt, moving away from the US dollar and swapping it to the Chinese yuan.
Well, so the China also, I want to address something, and I very rarely look at comments, but I just saw this one that I'm spewing American propaganda. Okay.
No, not necessarily. Who said that?
Let me.
Can you put that on screen?
Later. No, I'm not putting it on the screen. I am no. I am not. David, don't put it on the screen. Okay.
No, I won't. But I don't hold back for stuff like that. If somebody
I don't
needs
either.
to.
And here's the deal. If you guys don't like what I'm saying, that's fine. But there is a reality to economics.
Yeah.
And the United States is doing what it can to save itself. Now, I don't think it's doing a very good job. If I'm being clear, I don't think it's doing a very good job. But it is absolutely unfair to say that it's US versus China. That's part of the same BS. I don't want to curse on here because I don't want YouTube to get mad at us. But it's part of the same BS to be like, oh, it's US versus China. The United States has been a bad guy globally. And quite frankly, I wish more Americans understood what the rest of the world thinks of the United States. But the US is still the economic power right now. And it would be absolutely insane to not consider what the US is doing and why. It would be insane to look at the US and think, oh, they shouldn't be taking care of themselves. They absolutely should be. That's not propaganda. This is straight economics. This is what's happening globally. And it's very easy to say, oh, well, China is super good. China is on the way up right now, and they have a lot of their own problems. During the COVID-1 policy or the zero COVID policy, a lot of people were very angry with China. Countries come in and out of favor all the time for their policies. And so I'm very shocked by that comment
Yeah.
Because finances are finances, economics are economics. Right now, Ethiopia is switching to yuan because it is financially in their best interest to do
so.
that.
Yeah.
The United States and others, so they have a euro bond, which we'll talk about in a second, but they are fighting this because it is within their best interest to fight it. The Chinese are not giving a lower interest rate out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it because it is what is in their best interest. It is in their best interest for people to want yuan, whether it replaces the US as the reserve currency or not. So I don't know.
But
I'm real taken aback by that.
No, I see your point. I see your point. Also, the idea of also that, remember, when China was calling for a multipolar order, that multipolar order, there is one key term that included within that, which is fairness. So when China extend those loans to those countries at a lower rate, there is also advocating for those countries to move up the economic ladder around the world instead of suppressing them, like what we do with the IMF. And that's where the difference between the US and China, which is a major one. I just wanted to
It
add
is a
this
major
one,
one, but I will also say that
Yeah.
because the US has been the bad guy and offers the bad guy loans,
Yeah.
the Chinese can't do that. There can't be
And they
bad cop,
won't.
bad cop, right?
And they won't.
You can't have like two bad cops in this situation. The United States did it because there was no competition for a long time. And I do think that right now you're watching different types of loans come out of the IMF because there is now competition. So competition is actually fantastic. And I personally believe that if we actually did have a true capitalist society, system, which we don't. We flat out don't. We have crony capitalism at best. Okay. But China actually has more of a type of more capitalism actually in a sense than we do here. But if there really was true competition on the global stage, which there is right now for loans, the person offering the best deal is the one that's going to win. Nobody's going to go for the freaking IMF predatory loan from the 80s if there's a loan with a much better terms and much better interest rates. Nobody's going to go for that. So China absolutely is doing the right thing. And it's not for me to say what the reason is. I don't know if that's moral. I don't know if that's whatever, but no matter what, it is the smart thing to do if you're trying to attract people to actually want yuan.
And one of the other things is that in the Chinese system, you don't have the corporations influencing politics. In other words, the millionaires, the wealthy, and there are wealthy Chinese people, but they have no say into the political system, unlike what we have here. And that in itself plays a major role in ensuring that the policies coming out of Beijing are objective first, and serving the interest of the Chinese people. This is where, to me, at least when I was over there and I asked and I talked to people who spoke English and so forth, and it was just a very, very wonderful conversations. And I asked, how is the system here operating in this fashion in comparison to what we have? That is one of the key things they don't have, which, in my opinion, is what paved the way for the government to focus and concentrate on the policies that's going to serve the benefit, that serve the people. And this is why this recent meeting they just had, which is closed doors, that's for the next 5 years, the planning for the next 5 years. So you mentioned how the competition system, it's more in China than it is in the US. You're absolutely correct about that. And the example that I will support my argument with has to do with the car industry. When I went there, and I went to different places to see vehicles, different, not just BYD, there are other brands, and there is the competition in prices, And if the US wanted to say what the competition is part of the capitalist systems, why aren't we allowing BYDs here in America for American people to be able to have the opportunity to afford vehicle at a 13,000, 14, or even
Right.
16,000.
That's the point. The point is we absolutely do not have capitalism here. We just don't.
No, we don't. And you have
We have cronyism for sure.
Yeah, that for sure. And you have the corporations controlling and dictating the policies here in the US, and that is part of why our system it's only going down. It's been going down for the last few years. At least when I was in DC, you still had some pushback against certain policies behind the scenes. But to my knowledge, after I left in 2013 or 14, whatever that was, thanks just went downhill.
Yeah, no, I don't see any pushback against this system at all.
You look at how we deal with corruption. Just look how we deal with corruption compared to what China's how it deals with corruption over there. Simple as that. That's I mean, I'm not going to say it on the air here.
No, but people know, and they can Google how China has been dealing with corruption.
Yeah, and I'll deal with that the same way. And I'll deal with it the same way.
Yeah.
Because you look at what corruption is doing at the expense of the average citizen.
Absolutely.
That is to me where the idea is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, ladies first.
I'm still like, I very rarely look at comments, but that one really bothered me.
Don't you worry about it.
I do so much to be honestly objective.
That's true.
Like, but I am not just American. I hold a second citizenship, but I am also American. And I understand that there's a lot of anger towards the US government and the governmental
and rightly so.
And rightly so. I will be the first person to argue that the United States has been the bad guy globally for a long time. This is not new. The United States has been the bad guy globally for longer than I've been alive. But the reality is also that there are human beings suffering here because of the governmental policy. The US government has not just been bad to people around the world. The US government has been bad to its own people.
For Americans, that's true.
The US government has brought people to the brink of poverty and pushed more people into poverty. It's done the same thing here. It's cratered education. It's broken people's will to live. I mean, it is our birth rate is plummeting here too.
Yeah.
People are, what is it, like some large percentage of Americans are on antidepressants?
Yeah.
Like, come on. The US government has messed things up here and made things awful for us too. So it's not like we are living the high life here in the US where everything is perfect and it's an Eden where there's rainbows and sunshine. The US government sold us out too. And so I want to make that clear. It's not like the American people are saved from the American government. The American government did the same thing here. $37 trillion in debt? Come on.
Well, one thing I need to tell you, Elizabeth, about our community. They are wonderful people. They are very, very highly.
You guys are wonderful.
No, they are. And I am sure the comment, whatever it was, I didn't see it. I'm gonna look. I'm sure he was not meant in the wrong way. That's my assumption here.
I'm sure.
I know the community. They've been with us for a long time. I kind of know by names, and I know they mean well, but they understand that, at least I speak for myself. I will not shy away from criticizing the government when government does wrong. And it's been doing wrong. It's been doing wrong.
Absolutely.
Even though my time in the military was whatever, I won't shy away from that. It's because for us as Americans, you care for that average person who does not have a voice. And that's the right thing to do. Simple as that. The idea of, to me, why I always sort of bring the examples from China, because I've been on the ground, thanks to the community who funded the trips. I've seen with my own eyes when I will go to grocery stores, when I go to supermarkets, when I go to sort of the car dealerships and ask questions. That was the whole purpose of it, to understand what works for China that we could
do
right here. Yeah. But when I see our country is not even building infrastructure like this.
No, it's
Doesn't
not
even
even
have to
trying.
be like this. Just build a damn infrastructure that we can benefit from. Build a high-speed train that they
Right.
can cut down the travel time.
Yeah.
So, and when you look at, we pay in taxes, but the taxes are going to corrupt the governments. They go into whatever. We have the
We're
right
servicing
and the,
debt.
yeah, we have the right and the duty to speak up
Mhm.
and criticize the government. That's where we're coming from. So I
But
just want you to
is
know
that not what I'm doing?
exactly. I think it was just a miscommunication if
Literally
I
what
am
I'm
to
doing.
say this. So,
And I'm in the same, like, I feel the exact same way. It's not about one
yeah,
country being a good country or one country being a bad country. It's that, like, here in the United States, they're doing everything wrong. The cronyism has gotten to the
yeah,
point it has infiltrated our food, our air, our water, our education system, the way that we work. It's infiltrated everything, and everything is based on economics. And
that's
the
true.
the cornerstone of this country, when this country was at its best, was when its economics were strongest. And right now the economics are
No,
weak.
they're
They're
very,
very, very weak, to the point where most anybody who's paying attention can't figure out a way out of it. And every politician that we've had, and this drives me bananas, but every politician that we've had has just kicked that can down the road. They're like, somebody else is going to deal with it. Somebody else, the next guy is going to deal with it. And quite frankly, I don't know whether Donald Trump will do anything good or it will all be bad. I don't
he
know.
can't. He can't.
He
He
can't.
can't.
It's so far down the line. And in his first term, he didn't reduce the debt. In fact, he added to it. How
What Trump is for Trump.
and that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying, is
Trump
he's
is for Trump.
positioned himself as the savior,
Nah,
which if he can save us, fantastic. But he made the problem worse in certain key ways during his first term, including making the debt burden worse.
yeah,
And so there are a lot of people that argue, oh, well, the debt burden's not that big of a deal. I don't think anybody's saying that right now, because
yeah,
when we hit a certain threshold, the currency fails. The
yeah,
country fails, and we're not headed towards reducing it at all. And it's not about the debt itself. It's about the fact that we spend $1 trillion servicing debt every year. How much do we bring in taxes? You could not tax the wealthy out of $1 trillion in servicing debt.
yeah,
It's almost $1 trillion. I think it's like 800 billion. You can't tax your way out of that. You can't money print your way out of that without making inflation so freaking bad nobody could pay for anything.
yeah.
You're getting Weimar Germany at that point.
Well, the inflation is so bad in Germany anyway. A whole Europe, for that matter.
Well, because
It is crumbling.
well, but we're not the only ones with the same problem.
Yeah,
Let me find the number for you guys of what
yeah,
global debt is, what the global debt number is, but it's going to make your head spin.
yeah,
How is there this much debt? Hold on, let me find that number for you. Oh,
yeah.
let me
That
put
is
it
a
in my notes.
serious issue. I did talk about Europe yesterday. I touched on that one. I don't know to those who didn't see the video.
Okay. Sorry. Do you want to? So I found it in my
Sure.
notes. $338 trillion. Global.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
This is global debt. There is $338 trillion in debt
Yeah.
rolling around the world, because China has a bunch of debt too. It's not just the US. China
But
has debt.
yeah, it doesn't have as much, of course, as we do. And second, its debt is manageable. That's where the difference is. Now,
China's debt. Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
No, you kind of broke up. I couldn't hear you. What did you
No,
say?
I was gonna say its debt is not as big as ours, and second, its debt is
Mhm.
manageable. They have to have a little bit of debt, but
It's not, yeah. It's not even
it's
close to ours. Like it's
no, no,
that's
no,
not
no,
it's not
no.
even in the same ballpark.
They
But I'm
won't
saying,
allow, yeah, they won't allow themselves to get to that level. That's the
mhm.
one thing about, if you think about how Chinese think, especially the politicians and the strategic planning that goes into that session that just took place. As I said, I bet you, they have addressed these particular aspects of the currency for the
Oh,
next 5 years,
yeah,
for the next 10
they're
years.
much
Yeah,
smarter and more on top of it than I am. Like,
they think
I'm
ahead. They
sure.
think ahead. And second thing, remember last year they had a surplus. China had a surplus.
Yeah,
That gives me an idea personally, as far as they don't worry much about these debt things. Now, the fundamental question, which is a serious, even though we're talking about finance and economics, I can't help it but to ask about the seriousness of the geopolitical question. And this one has to do with, should that time comes for the Chinas to replace the US dollar, will this lead to a hot war? It's worth asking.
It's certainly worth
thinking,
asking.
and I
Yeah.
like to think ahead of time. So, of course, there are those who will say, well, wait a minute, Dr. O, the currency competition has been around for a while and it never or directly led to some sort of a hot war. Yeah, I agree with that to a degree. So,
Yeah,
except
agree.
that when you consider the underlying tensions around the economic dominance and the global influence, which usually paved the way for the financial dominance. That's exactly what we did after World War II.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I obviously don't know the answer to that. But we,
Yeah.
what is it? Gerald Celente is not the only person who has said this. I think a lot of people have said it, but it's like when economics fails, they always bring you to war. They always
When everything fails, they take you to war.
Yeah, they take you to war. But
That's true.
But economics directly drives war.
Yeah.
What we have right now is we have two ongoing conflicts already. We have Russia, Ukraine, and we have Israel and
Hamas, and also and Venezuela that we are working on.
So there are already pocket conflicts going on that should have ended very quickly, but for magical reasons didn't. Okay. So they're already doing the economics of that. So I am very curious. I mean, they would have to end. So like we had to end Afghanistan in the most embarrassing way maybe possible.
And we want to go back. We want to go back for the background base.
Oh my
That's
God.
what Trump wants.
No,
it just hypes. It just hypes.
But to start these other conflicts, we had to get out of that one. So the Russia-Ukraine conflict and Israel and their peripheral conflicts, I think that would have to be over before we would enter a hot war with China. But China's positioning itself really, really well to not have that be the case. And in large part, I mean, how is the US supposed to fight a war with China if they won't sell them the rare earth minerals that are needed to build the weapons to then have a hot war with China? Like, there's some infrastructure I think that would need to change before that happened. And if it didn't, because so I did that show on Singapore investing both in the US and Chinese microchips. That happens all over the place, right? There's a whole movie about it, Lord of War, where they're, weapons and central banks have been doing this, bankers have been doing this throughout all of history that we can tell, is funding both sides.
Yeah.
Making money from both sides. So I do think that there is, and the deeper I get into this stuff, I do think that there is sort of the underlying truth of war that is economic based that I think really deserves a closer look. But China is setting itself up economically to make sure that the US can't have a hot war with it. But I don't know that I don't know what's going to happen, but I can see the economics playing out so that that doesn't happen.
Well, China
all lose.
Well, I'm sure China is not China is ready for that if that happens, and they are not afraid of it, and they kind of made it clear. I remember back in.
It's a bad idea.
Well, they're gonna have to show, they're gonna have to demonstrate the capabilities and the capabilities they have. At least for what I saw when I was there in China on September 3rd. That gives me an idea of that. Doesn't mean we have some stuff too. It's just we know we will be overwhelmed by what the Chinese have. And
it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea.
It will
That doesn't mean the American government's not going to do it.
No,
It's
well, here,
yeah.
just to tie it back to our conversation here, and this is why there are those, and I mean, I will argue that the sort of, even when you go to the level of a currency replacement, that in itself or by itself,
Mhm.
uh, not going to lead directly to a hot war. Once
Yeah,
again, what is going to be leading it to the hot war is the global influence, is the economic dominance. And when
absolutely.
you
I
start sort
agree.
of sanctioning countries right and left to do this, economic, some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Rivalry or competition.
Mhm.
It's getting even tenser between the US and China. And one of the aspects that China has the upper hand has to do with the advancements of technology.
Mhm.
This is, in my
Yeah.
opinion, what's going to be paving the way for that the gradual currency shift. It ain't going to happen overnight. I know this for a fact.
Oh,
But
for sure, for sure.
it's because that gradual steps is going to be coincided with some specific policies. So
Mhm.
rather than this sudden movement or sudden, if you want to, shock and awe all of a
Yeah.
sudden on a
Oh,
global
yeah,
system, they're
absolutely.
going to do that. So
And that's what the headlines would have you believe, right? The headlines would have you believe, like, it's gonna happen tomorrow. 50% of
yeah,
reserve is now gonna
yeah,
be in yuan. That's not
yeah,
you're absolutely correct. It's
yeah,
not gonna happen tomorrow, but it is a trend, and
yeah,
turns out time moves forward whether we want it to or not.
yeah,
And the reality that is right now is not the reality that's gonna be 10 years from now.
yeah. The real, the one thing that we ought to conclude, at least in all these dynamics that is taking place,
Mhm.
and this one that is centered around one key assertion or theme, and that is the fundamental shift in the global power dynamics.
Absolutely, and
That
it's already
that's
happened, I think,
yeah,
or happening.
that's what this currency
Mhm.
now you're seeing moving slowly, and I am sure Chinese are very patient. Chinese culture, they
Yeah.
never brag about them. It's not in their in their DNA to brag about them. They do things quietly. That's just part of the culture. So the
Yeah.
things that China is moving forward with is to ensure the reduction of
Mhm.
the dependency on the US dollar.
Well, and
And
that's smart. I mean,
well, it is. It is
that's smart.
because China is pushing it towards, and I can see the logic of it, that
Mhm.
the world is no longer a unipolar system. That era is over.
Mhm.
We are already in a multipolar system.
Yes,
And what you're
that's
seeing
clear.
right now in the
Yeah.
financial landscape is just part of that alternative financial order.
Mhm.
Whether we like it or not, it's beside the
Right,
point.
it's not about whether you like it or not,
Nah,
and
no.
that's I think that's what really bothered me about the comment is, like, it
Oh, just let it go.
I
Let
don't
it go.
well,
Yeah,
no,
let it go.
yes, I
Let it go.
definitely did, but the
It's
thing
not worth
is
your
it's not
energy.
about emotionally
Yeah,
feeling like this or that.
yeah,
When you bring emotion into it,
that's
it
true.
takes your logic away. You can't think your way through problems anymore if you're hyper emotional about it. And I understand why people are hyper emotional about it because it affects their daily lives. And it sucks. So much of our societal structure in more than
Yeah,
just the United States freaking sucks.
yeah,
And so it's easy to get emotional about it, but when it takes your logic away, you can't think your way through problems anymore. You
yeah.
can't look at stuff objectively anymore. And our news cycle in not just the United States, news cycles globally.
Yeah,
What they do is get you all fired up about all this stuff that's happening. Oh my God, here the sky is falling, right? Where the truth is something probably completely different. But all
that
you
is
have
true.
to do is control the headline because most people aren't even going to read the article itself. They're just
Well,
going to read the headline.
our community thinks very
Yes, you guys
differently.
think
We
very
see
differently
things
than that.
differently, I believe so. And this is why, just as I'm thinking about it, I recall when I was teaching the IR, International Relations
Mhm.
graduate program. Uh, One of the things I remember touching on it has to do with the financial systems, the global one. And this a perfect opportunity to, if I may just share it with the community here, that this idea about what I talked about earlier regarding the alternative of the financial order, because what it's going to do is going to reshape the geopolitical influence around the world. So, because now when you change that, you're going to change other aspects.
Oh
For
yeah,
example,
absolutely.
access to resources,
Mhm.
rare earth elements. You're looking at a regional dominance, and all this could end up in some sort of a zero sum game of
Yeah.
sort, by which now each country we look at the other countries' gains as a threat. That's exactly what we are witnessing now, for example, between Europe and Russia. But
Would it
for the
be would
for
it
the
be
US for the US and China is mainly so far concentrated on the economic aspects.
well, at least it's honest. At least because
On whose part?
at at least the US and China are honest about what the
No, the
issue
US
is.
is not honest about it.
No, the US
I'll
is
tell you
being
this.
honest about the issue is
No, it's
economic.
not. It's not.
I think so. I
No,
mean,
it's not.
it's not being honest about exactly what's happening for sure.
Well,
But
yeah. Well,
that
because
is
it's
economic. I think
yeah,
the
but
US is being
yeah,
honest
it's
about
giving the wrong information to the American
Oh,
people.
sure.
It's
I mean, yeah,
misleading. That's why
clearly.
I won't consider the American government being honest. It
No,
was
I mean, there's
never
nothing
honest.
in the Epstein files. Epstein only
Well,
trafficked to himself. Okay, like, please hear me. I'm not sitting here
yeah,
saying the US government is being so honest. It's clearly not, and it's really bad at lying. What I am saying though is that there's no it's not we're not talking about democracy anymore. Like
yeah,
if you heard like even in the Taiwan conflict, the
yeah,
conversation isn't about democracy anymore. Do you remember the last administration and the last few years? They were like,
yeah.
well, China just needs democracy. What?
No,
No, it doesn't. They obviously do
no,
not need democracy. It didn't work very well for Afghanistan. It didn't
that's
work
true.
in any of the other places we've tried to bomb democracy into them. Okay. But that
Yeah,
was the narrative. They hated our freedoms. They hated, our way, whatever. Right. But there was a narrative on top of the truth that was so stupid.
that's true. You mentioned the Epstein files, right?
Yeah. Oh no. Don't show that for very long because I don't want to get kicked off YouTube.
No, we won't. We won't. We won't. It's the truth. So
I
I
don't know,
I got a
David.
hold. I got a hold of that. So without detailing stuff. Anyway,
Yes. We
so
didn't show any of that. It
yeah,
didn't.
no, and that is where the idea now, when you think about literally, when you think about these changes into the financial system, you think about what is coinciding with, and what is coinciding with flashpoints.
Mhm.
Think about Venezuela, think about Gaza,
Yeah.
think about Afghanistan, Pakistan, think about Pakistan, India, all this. Think about even Africa itself, what
Yeah.
was going on in Sudan airport, in Khartoum. All this doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Mhm.
All those flashpoints could contribute more into these tensions that is already broiling vis-a-vis the economic rivalry. So
Right. Right.
yeah, and
It's flat out economics. You're
yeah,
absolutely
yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah. That's usually, and again, use history as
Mhm.
your guide. You will find out that major powers, some of them have managed this economic rivalry in a way before a war. That's one again. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's worth starting to think ahead of time regarding that aspect. That's all.
Mhm.
That's all. So I just wanted to highlight this point here. All right. What is the dog there?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you guys want to see the floof? Come here,
Well,
come here, baby.
she
Do you want to say
can't get
hi?
up there. Let's see.
Come here, baby. Do you want to say hi? No, come on. You gotta get up. Come here.
Glidey. She's a sweet dog. Very, very sweet.
Okay,
Cute.
guys, this is a behind the scenes moment. Let me see if I can grab the camera. Do you guys want to
Yeah,
see
why
the
not?
dog? Put in the comments if you want to see the dog. She's
Let me
very
see.
cute. Okay.
If she lets you.
Yes, let me see. Here, I'm gonna I'm going to pull myself off for a second.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, you'll see. Kalidi. She's a fluffy dog, white. All right, I need to add you to the stage, right?
Yeah, you can add me back.
Yeah, right. Here he is. Hi, Kalidi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Oh, that over there.
She's just looking. Kalidi, how are you?
Hi, girl.
Now she's just she's looking at a camera.
She's a baby.
Yeah.
You're a good girl.
That's interesting.
Okay, can you take me off again, David?
All right, there we go. So this is again just we'll wait till Elizabeth comes back here before we close out here. It's just the idea of we need to think in terms of again as an analyst, will I say there is risks to financially escalating tensions between China and the US? Yes, it is, but at the same time, not just the currency that's going to be the only major factor that will be causing a war. So, because where the problem on our part is that we are not able to manage this rivalry diplomatically speaking. So we send representatives to China, then as soon as we leave, we'll say, okay, we support Taiwan, we do this, we do that. That's not a diplomacy, that's not and we don't have, frankly, sort of qualified diplomats to manage this kind of international conflict.
No, I mean we have like hedge fund managers, and I mean it's. I will also say that this, I have said this before, but this government is so bad at lying. They're the absolute freaking worst. So you're right. The messaging coming out of Washington, it's not just globally that it's like wonky. Yeah. It's like one day it's one thing, the next day it's the next thing. Absolute insanity.
Oh. Let's say thank you to Army with Harmony, who gifted a membership to someone. So thank you so much for your continued support. Please, to others, if this is your first time here, please make sure to subscribe and hit that like button so you can share the video with others. So, all right. Well, I guess we're going to sign off. We look forward to seeing you next time. By the way, be on the lookout for a video I'm going to be releasing on Sunday regarding the rare earth elements. Very, very interesting analysis. So be on the lookout for that. And we look forward to seeing you next time. All right, guys. You take care. Bye-bye.